You have food on the table, a roof over your head, a phone in your hand connecting you to the entire world. And yet, something feels missing. Not dramatically, not in a way you could easily explain to someone. Just a quiet, persistent emptiness that follows you through the day. Through the scroll, through the routine. If you have felt this, you are not alone, and you are not broken. According to a 2024 CDC Household Pulse survey, approximately 1 in 8 U.S. adults, around 12.7%, report experiencing frequent loneliness. The World Health Organization estimates that 1 in 6 people worldwide experiences persistent loneliness, linked to over 871,000 deaths per year. We are, by every material measure, the most connected generation in human history. And by almost every psychological measure, one of the loneliest. This video is not about loneliness as a symptom. It is about emptiness as a signal. And what philosophy, centuries before modern psychology, already understood about why modern life so often fails to satisfy the deepest human need. In 1943, the Austrian psychiatrist Viktor Frankl was arrested by the Nazis and transported to Auschwitz. He survived, and what he observed, both in the camps and in the patients he treated for decades afterward, led him to one central conclusion. The primary human drive is not pleasure. It is not power. It is meaning. Frankl called this the will to meaning. And he argued that when this will goes unfulfilled, when a person cannot find a sufficient reason for their existence, the result is what he described as an existential vacuum. Frankl described the existential vacuum as expressed through feelings of meaninglessness, emptiness, apathy, and boredom. And he was clear. This was not mental illness. It was spiritual distress, a condition of the soul, not the brain chemistry. What makes Frankl's diagnosis remarkable is when he made it. Long before smartphones, long before social media, long before the loneliness epidemic became a headline. He saw something structural in the modern condition, something that no amount of comfort or convenience could resolve. And here is what I find most striking about Frankl's work. He was not a pessimist. He survived the most brutal conditions imaginable and still argued that life could be deeply meaningful. His point was not that life is empty. His point was that we have built a civilization that systematically starves the very thing that makes life feel worth living. That is a very different problem, and it requires a very different solution. In 2000, the Harvard political scientist Robert Putnam published a book that would become one of the most cited works in modern sociology. He called it Bowling Alone. His argument was simple. Since the mid-20th century, Americans had been quietly withdrawing from one another. Civic organizations, church attendance, dinner parties, neighborhood associations, all of it was declining. People were bowling more than ever. But they were bowling alone. Putnam documented that between 1960 and 1993, the proportion of Americans who believed most people could be trusted fell from 58% to 37%. Community life was not just shrinking. Social trust, the invisible fabric that holds communities together, was eroding with it. By 2024, the Survey Center on American Life found that 17% of Americans reported having no close friends, up from just 3% in 1990. And according to research from the World Happiness Report, 1 in 4 young Americans aged 18 to 24 ate every meal alone in 2023, virtually double the rate from 2 decades earlier. Sociologist Ray Oldenburg coined the term third places, the spaces between home and work where casual, unplanned human connection once happened. The cafe, the barber shop, the church hall, the local club. These places were not luxuries. They were the architecture of belonging. And across the Western world, they have been quietly disappearing for decades. What strikes me about this is how invisible the loss has been. Nobody decided to abolish community. Nobody chose isolation. It happened gradually, through 1,000 small structural changes: the car replacing the walk, the suburb replacing the street, the streaming service replacing the cinema, the delivery app replacing the dinner out. Each one seemed like a convenience. Together, they dismantled the conditions under which human beings naturally connect. Here is the paradox at the heart of modern emptiness. We have never been more connected. And yet the data tells us we have never felt more alone. Research consistently shows a complex relationship between social media use and well-being. Studies suggest that passive scrolling in particular is linked to significantly higher loneliness scores, with some surveys finding over 40% of regular users feeling lonelier after use. Not better, lonelier. This is not an accident. Passive scrolling, consuming without connecting, appears to be psychologically harmful in a way that mirrors what Frankl described decades earlier. We are feeding stimulation. We are starving meaning. Nietzsche, writing in the 19th century, warned of what he called the death of God, not merely a religious event, but a cultural one. The collapse of the shared frameworks of meaning that had organized human life for centuries: religion, tradition, community, ritual. He did not celebrate this. He warned that without new sources of meaning to replace what had been lost, human beings would drift into what he described as nihilism, a creeping sense that nothing truly matters. He was describing, over a century in advance, something that millions of people feel every day in 2026, without quite being able to name it. I think this is the part of modern emptiness that is hardest to confront. Because we have been told, implicitly, that comfort is the goal. That if you have enough money, enough entertainment, enough likes, you will feel fulfilled. And when you don't feel fulfilled despite having enough, the conclusion most people reach is that something must be wrong with them. Frankl and Nietzsche were both pointing at something else entirely. The emptiness is not a personal failure. It is a cultural one. If the emptiness is structural, if it is built into the conditions of modern life, then what can the individual actually do about it? The philosophers offer a consistent answer. Not comfort, not distraction, engagement. Frankl argued that meaning is found through three primary channels: through the work we create and contribute to, through the love we give and receive, and through the attitude we choose in the face of unavoidable suffering. None of these require wealth. None require status. All of them require presence, a quality that the modern world systematically discourages. The Stoics understood this centuries earlier. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a human being finds fulfillment not in what they consume, but in what they contribute. That the life oriented outward, toward others, toward something larger than the self, is the life that feels most worth living. And the Taoist tradition, as Zhuangzi described it, points toward something subtler still: the fasting of the mind. The deliberate emptying of the noise, the ambition, the performance, in order to experience life more directly. Not to have more, to be more present to what already is. Here is my honest take on this. None of these philosophical traditions are telling us to withdraw from the world or reject modern life. They are pointing at something far more practical. They are saying, stop outsourcing your sense of meaning to things that cannot provide it. Stop waiting for the algorithm to make you feel seen. Stop confusing the busyness of your schedule with the fullness of your life. The antidote to modern emptiness is not more stimulation. It is depth, in relationships, in work, in whatever you have chosen to care about. The emptiness you feel is not a flaw. It is a signal. It is your deepest self telling you that something important is missing. That the life you are living has not yet connected to the thing that makes life feel worth living. Viktor Frankl survived Auschwitz on a single realization: that even in the most brutal conditions imaginable, the one freedom that cannot be taken from a human being is the freedom to choose how to respond. He found meaning not despite his suffering, but through his response to it. The modern world offers you everything except the conditions in which that kind of depth can develop. It offers you distraction when you need reflection. It offers you stimulation when you need stillness. It offers you connection when you need belonging. What the philosophers knew, and what the data is now confirming, is that human beings are not wired for passive consumption. We are wired for contribution, for presence, for the particular kind of aliveness that comes from mattering to something beyond ourselves. The emptiness is not a mystery. It is a message, and philosophy, long before the statistics arrived, had already written the reply. The question is not whether modern life can provide meaning. It cannot, on its own. The question is whether you are willing to build it, deliberately, quietly, in the spaces between the noise. That has always been the work. It has never been easy. And it has never been more necessary. If this video made you think differently about the life you are living, or the emptiness you have been carrying, we cover these questions every week on Synaptodox. Subscribe to Synaptodox.